You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower right here. And I have to say it because it's been a long time. Absolutely gorgeous Northport, Florida. It is fantastic out today. Man, I have missed these days where we string them all together for weeks at a time. So I hope to God, and I know he's listening because he gave us a great day. But I hope to God we have like weeks of these right now because I love it. I can't wait to break my motorcycle out, which leads me into let's be safe on the way home. Let's keep our eye out for motorcyclists because they're going to be on the road. And by all means, 85 on 75 is a good thing, not 105. So just slow down. Let's get everybody home safe tonight, and let's learn some things and let's share some information today. So the more shares that we can get, the more likes we can get, the better off we are with the information we're trying to provide. And I've got two very special guests in the house, and I'm going to let each of them take a few minutes to introduce themselves. Uh, pick the one who wants to go first.
I'll go first. Hi, I'm the one that's here every month almost for almost a year now. My name is Joan Derrig-Heacox. I'm with CARE Center for Abuse and Rape Emergencies. I am the sexual victims advocate and the volunteer coordinator. So if you're interested in working with us as a volunteer, please let us know. You can call our main hotline or main line, and I'll be glad to talk to you. Saying that, we have a wonderful guest that also works with CARE, and go ahead.
Hi guys, my name is Brandi Mercado. I am the domestic violence prevention specialist. Basically, I'll be working with youth, trying to prevent any kind of domestic violence, sexual violence from happening, and just educating them on what is healthy, what's not healthy, and relationships, friendships, all that kind of stuff. So excited to
And
be here.
that's awesome, and thanks both of you for being part of the show. And Brandy, it's nice to have a new face on board. But just before we got on the air, we were talking about athletics and sports and different things like that, and the importance of today's athlete having some knowledge about what the real world is happening. The real athletic side of things with NIL and different organizations. No matter whether you're getting paid to play anymore or not, there are some really um, good programs out there. And Brandy, you were talking about one that really are good educational tools for today's athletes, and really why they should be paying attention and why they should try to take some of these courses and be better role models. Do you kind of want to highlight a little bit? I know you're new, but you have such a good grasp on what you're trying to do. You want to talk about the importance for today's athletes and why they should be paying attention and learn from a lot of this stuff?
Of course. So like you said, I'm pretty new. I've been here about 2 months now. So I'm just doing all the trainings and learning all these things. But I'm going through a training right now called Coaching Boys into Men. So I'm going through the advocate training, and what I'll be doing is going out into the community and reaching out to different coaches. And basically what they're going to do is, it's not like a big program where there's lecturing their athletes. Basically, it's 15 minutes once a week where they just sit down and have a conversation with them and ask them questions about if they know what consent is, if they know what domestic violence is, if they know anything like that, if they see it, if they're partaking in it, if their friends are partaking in it, how they respond to it, and just really starting a conversation, because a lot of boys especially don't grow up feeling like they can express their emotions. They're never taught how. They're taught how to be. They have to be tough. They have to be athletes. They have to be strong. They have to be the provider. They have to be the protector. They can't cry. You're not allowed to cry if you're a boy,
Well,
and that's just ingrained in them from a young age. So having these conversations when they're a little bit older and they understand can help prevent a lot of things.
and while that's a great concept with introducing, the other side of it is us who have been around all these years, and I'm not going to even mention 60. Um, but we have been around a long time, so we've watched a lot of athletes, uh, from younger ages, believe it or not. Over my lifetime, I've seen a lot of athletes who've gotten themselves entangled in some scenarios where the educational side of it may have not just advanced them to be a good participating human in life, but not ended their possible career in athletics and different areas of life too, because there's something that comes along with uh, whether it be domestic violence or rape or any of these things that happen, whether it be a dating scenario or not, that if you're educated and you're learning from the powers that be, you guys are the powers that be. You're the educators um, that lift up the side of, hey, this is a real possibility. This could happen to you. You're kind of susceptible to this. So your behavior, it should be restraint, versus I'm just gonna go. Because as athletes, we're just taught really from start to finish, no matter what it takes, go, 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 power through. Well, if you power through the wrong thing, which a lot of athletes have, and
Mhm.
whether they are older or younger, I've seen a lot of teen athletes kind of fall into that trap of, oh no, I'm going to jail, versus I'm going to go on to college and be the running back or the basketball player I thought I was going to be.
Right.
Um, there are those scenarios that happen out there, and that's really why you're going out and trying to advocate, get some education, and work with these other programs, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Prevention
And I
is huge. We can talk to all the adults all we want that have gone through it, but we want to educate the younger generation so that they can make a change, so that they're not experiencing a lot of things that so many people have experienced.
and I know Joan and I have talked about this in depth over the years, but it's the NIL side of things is different today than it was a couple years ago, where the athletes may have been getting some underhanded pay, and I have to chuckle about that because we all know it was part of the underhandedness of the whole sporting in college thing. They didn't want to ever disclose it, but now it's all disclosed, and it's running rampant through all the sports and through all college levels. There's one college out there, I didn't tell you this prior to, but there's a college out there right now that's actually trying to take the athletes and make them employees of the college, which that's another slippery slope, because yes, while the college may be paying the athlete, there are guidelines that the employee handbook is
Yeah.
is governed by. So that's a when you start adding these layers and you start talking about the domestic violence and different involvements along the way, the rape, all these scenarios, that and the relationships, they haven't even really discussed the educational side of things with relationships, athlete to athlete, if you are within that school program that says you're not allowed to date an employee. So
Right.
there's a whole lot that
Yeah. It
is
could be
out there,
dangerous. Mhm.
very dangerous, and it's there's no guideline for it. But you guys are kind of working through setting up at least some guidelines on education, because you had the past history, you've got law on your side, you've got some really good insight, and I know Joan wants to add some things in, I can tell, but go ahead, Joan, and layer this in real quick.
Well, just talking about dating violence. So this month, February, is Teen Dating Violence or Abuse Awareness Month. So we really do want to talk about teen dating,
Sure.
and whether that's teen as in high school dating or teen as in young adults college age, right? It leads into the younger young adult person, because again, thinking about people's experiences and teens' experience. But talking about athletes, being an athlete, particularly one that is maybe football. Maybe football is the big sport at your high school, or you're going on to a big college, where football is the biggest sport going and everybody watches it.
Right.
It creates a different social status. So, and often athletes are given privileges. Like now we're talking about finances. So when there's a privilege, maybe it's an assumed privilege or it's a created privilege, like the community creates a sense of privilege or social status of superiority when it comes to a young athlete, whether it's male or female, right? Because there are lots of great female athletes out there. And you start dating, a person begins dating them. There can be abuse within that relationship because of the difference in like social status or privilege. So an all-star athlete who's being paid all this money now in a school and has such public visibility, if they rape someone, it's very hard for the girl or boy that's been raped or sexually assaulted or abused to file charges against someone like that, his word against her word, or their word against one word against the other. And especially when there's so much money at stake with the athlete, what's going to happen to cover it up or protect them from harm, right? Criminal charges, when they are making so much money, when they're held at such a high esteem that the victim loses any kind of sense of self, gets lost in the middle of all of that, and that long-term harm that manifests from that situation. So athletes, we need to have that conversation with the athletes. And what does consent look like? So do you want to say any more about that or take that to a different level with the coaching conversations you're having?
I haven't started the conversations yet.
Okay.
I'm still working on it.
So I have 3 sons that one was a state champion in Ohio. And I know what that story is about when your kids are athletes and they're really good athletes, and abuse that can happen to them, and being very aware. I remember having that conversation. Sorry, sons and children of mine that are out there that are probably not listening. But having that conversation that with my sons, that girls are going to be attracted to you because of your social status, or because of being a great athlete, or maybe really smart or good looking, or drive a cool car, whatever their story is. A story could be that girls could be very much attracted to that and be unable to articulate a firm no, or unable to consent because of some story she made up, right? About, I want this boy, and she's got happily ever after on her mind, marriage and children and happily ever after. And he's not thinking the same way she's presenting, and he doesn't have that same intention. And then ended up having sex, and then she may feel that was non-consensual, or she was forced into it or coerced into it.
So I liked where you were going with this with the athlete, because a lot of times I think athletes get looked at differently in a lot of ways with the teens that are out there. I think they get idolized differently a lot of times than your average everyday student, and
Yes.
and yet they're more susceptible. And I think even today, I think the NCAA and the high school, the high school is supposed to do a certain thing, and NCAA was supposed to do certain things before. And we were talking about the Northport having the Atlanta Braves here in their facility that really educates the foreign athlete on American habits and American ways of life so that they come in and have a greater success. Now, the transition with these coaches programs, these are, taking the athletes and making men, or and I've heard of these on the women's side of things too. Well, the women athletes are just as susceptible to a lot of this stuff, and there is no difference there. The difference I see now for today's athlete, though, is there's the extra added dollars that come with the NIL money that we really, as a society, haven't even adjusted. Me as a follower, an avid follower of sports, I haven't really adjusted to the true power, and I do mean power of the dollar, because the dollar now is legitimately keeping athletes from going to the pro level because they get paid to stay to play. And when that happens, I don't know that there's any training specifically that goes in for these athletes. And I'm sure we're going to learn more about that as all of these things transition. But we're only talking the last 2 or 3 years, and it's taken, well, 5 or 6 years for us to get a good following of people on this show to talk about domestic violence and rape and prevention and human trafficking. And it was long before that that these things were actually very prevalent and not being talked about. So I'm hoping that with this awareness month, it's a great tool to have to really open doorways to your teen at home, to ask questions now, because you guys are here and ready and willing to answer them. But it's trying to figure out what, even with the new parents today who are out there working every day, how do I manage getting this information into my teen's head, so to speak? Because there's a lot of pressure, whether you're just an everyday athlete or you're an everyday student. There's a lot of social pressure right now. Can you guys talk about that?
Sure. So, pardon? With
Somebody said that the volume's very low. Is there any way to turn it up?
Very low.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. Go
you
ahead.
might have to move in closer. That's why I'm sort of sitting up closer so that my voice will pick up, because we just have a little microphone here. Somebody's listening, huh?
Somebody's listening. We got a listener. Uh-oh, where'd he go?
Awesome.
Lost him.
Yeah. Are you still there?
I am. I kind of blacked out there for a minute. I don't even know what happened. I was like, where did I go?
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, I can hear
All right.
you.
Well, I'm just going to use I think you've made a really valid point about this. All of a sudden now, these athletes are getting involved and getting a lot of money. So they're getting paid huge sums of money, and they don't quite know what to do it. And many athletes actually end up going broke because of that. Nobody teaches them how to manage their money once they've started getting all of this money, whether it's pro level or now in this particular case of college athletes. So think about that in terms of sexuality. So let's think about the fact that you're a young adult, young teen, and your body starts changing, and you start having, sexual thoughts. You're looking at sexual images on TV that used to be considered PG or X-rated, or now R, and now even down to PG. So they're having sexual thoughts and sexual feelings, and it's like an overabundance, like they have too much money that they don't know how to handle this money. Same with their sexuality and their hormones. And then the sexual culture that we have going on, the permissiveness, what they're seeing and talking about and singing about in music videos, and the language that they're using. So think about that in terms of having an overabundance of sexualization going on. And then how do they manage that, and how do they handle that, and who do they talk to about it? And that's what makes this so difficult in our teen dating right now. Because dating so quickly goes from let's go for a walk in the park or go to the local restaurant and get a soda, or something to eat, or go to the ball game. It's very quickly going into let's have sex, and very quickly going into having some sort of sexual encounter. And interestingly enough, 1 out of 6 teens has received sexual images on their phones, through technology that was unwanted by somebody that they know. So that's really interesting. We are having a problem, like having too much money. We have too much opportunity to put our sexual images on, using our technology. So this transmission of sexual images through Snapchat and text images, on sexting, where you're texting using sexual conversation that may be consensual at one point, but then these teenagers break up and it's no longer consensual. Well, there's a real problem with that, where that's those sexual images, sexual experiences. It's hard for a teenager to understand that when you take a picture of yourself and you put it on the internet, or you text it to someone, that image is, available forever. And so now abuse comes up when the other partner wants, they call it revenge porn, but it's really non-consensual sharing of sexual images and sexual encounters. And then the use of videotaping them and not thinking about what that looks like for their future. So you compare, the amount of sexuality that's happening in dating, like you're talking about money and athletics, and then not knowing how to manage all of that.
Right. And there's something else that you just kind of triggered this in my thought process, because we talk about it a lot with the human trafficking side of things and uh, the sexual engagement side of the human trafficking. And our teens, while they're susceptible for the dating side of things, the posting of certain images and the posting of certain information that is really at their fingertips and free to do, and they feel like they should because they can
and can do it anywhere, anytime. Anywhere, anytime.
Doesn't that sometimes, and I'm not saying every time, but these are things that people need to be aware of, they interlink sometimes. It goes from a dating scenario where you think I'm just engaging a certain way, but there are really bad players in this world who are targeting information and then utilizing that information back towards the victim again. And I hate to use the word double victim, but you could easily become a double victim at that point. From the and I used the word power before, but we use the word power of money, but the power of blackmailing then comes into play too. And
it's called sextortion, by the way.
Oh, that a great word. I hate
there
that
is.
word.
There's a word for it.
Yeah,
it's called sextortion, and it has caused teens to actually commit suicide. There's this impersonating, somebody will contact a teenager either through the internet or pretend to be someone that they trust or know or they're dating, and get them to send sexual photographs. and then say, oh, by the way, I'm not a girlfriend, I'm not your girlfriend, or I want you now to send me X number of dollars in exchange because now I have photographs of you. And so 60%, that's one of the abuses, is 60% of all teens have experienced the threat of somebody putting their photographs on sexual photographs on the internet and extorting, abuse. You have to be my girlfriend, or I'm going to put these videos on of us having sex, or pictures of you that you sent me. I'm going to put them online. And that's considered sexual abuse. That's considered dating abuse. And it happens at the teen level. And where sextortion is where they want money for it. But it can also be, you have to be my girlfriend, or boyfriend, or I'm going to put photographs on the internet. Or they'll just do it because they broke up. So now the relationship, maybe they broke up for whatever reason, and to get back at that person, they put photographs online. And people have committed suicide. Kids have committed suicide as a result of that, or humiliated, or gotten involved in drugs because they're so humiliated by these images that are now on the internet. Jump in anytime you want to.
So Brand, I'm going to make her jump in, because here's the beauty of having Brandi, who is one, new to the job. And I know I'm not going to make you mad when I ask your age, but you look really young.
Not yet.
So I'm jealous there. So what is your age?
I'm 32.
All right, so 32. So you're really young at 32, but you've also seen a lot of this stuff differently than Joan and I have, because when we grew up, things were a lot different. And I'm not saying that Joan hasn't seen them today, but it's really hard to see that transition, and for us as older adults, legitimately, we could have a 60-year-old right now who's dealing with a teenager who we haven't been to high school or been through all of this stuff. And a lot of our listeners may not even have technology at their fingertips as adults, but their kids do.
Right.
And so I look at you and I think, there's this. I'm gonna ask you a question, and we'll see if you know what it is. But do you know what a payphone is?
Yeah.
So I had
I'm not an in-between generation. So we didn't grow up like we started with computers in elementary school, and then technology slowly took over, but we still know a little bit of the old school stuff.
A little bit.
Floppy disk is.
I have to ask that because, one, it makes it fun on the show and makes people listen. But two, that's how fast it's changed.
Yes.
I mean, we've gone from, hey, I need a quarter in my pocket all the time, to I just need to be able to dial my phone on my fingertips, and or tell my phone to dial itself.
Right. Exactly.
That's the strangest thing, but it's that we've seen this advancement, and we talk about the education back to teens. We talk about the sex that comes along with that. We talk about the human trafficking. We talk about all of these things, and they do kind of overlap and kind of interlock sometimes. But the people who are trying to do the good, you guys, are trying to do good on all these topics, where the bad people that are out there, they're really honing in, and their advanced technology side of things, their conversations, their ability to manipulate someone, I think it's at a different level than it was 20 years ago.
Artificial intelligence is taking over. They can pretend to be people and get stuff out of young kids. I have 2 young kids, so I'm extra over. I'm like, keep an eye on my kids at all times, because even if they're on like kids YouTube or anything like that, there's inappropriate ads. It's everywhere. And so that's where I think my job is very important, to educate them on, because they've grown up with technology. That's all they know.
Yeah, they don't have the
know how to
reverse.
use tablets and phones, and that's all they know. So it's normal for them, but they don't know what dangers come with it. So that's where it's important for us to educate them on what is normal and what isn't normal, and what's
And
healthy. And
last month we had the human trafficking
Mhm.
symposium, and that's why I see a lot of this layering that we're talking about in these conversations, where I'm glad we have these specific days to draw awareness to the dating side of things. But if you're just thinking it's just dating, you're so sadly mistaken. It's
Yeah.
There's layers that go
Mhm.
along with the dating side of things, and I'm glad we opened it up like we did with the NIL. That was not a plan, by the way. I had no intention of even talking NIL. But when you talk about the athletic side of things and the team, that's like a small piece of the pie that they deal with on a daily
Mhm.
basis, going to school, let alone being a 13-year-old being around 16 or 17-year-olds, and having that, gosh, um, pressure
Mhm.
put on you, because there are some 13-year-old girls that look like they're 16,
Yeah.
and there's some 16-year-old boys that look like they're 19,
Mhm.
and it literally is, and that hasn't changed, by the way. We had
No.
that back in the day. So contrary to everybody's belief, we had some people that looked like they were older back in the day, and we all would stand back and go, oh my gosh, today it's different. The social media side of
Social
things,
media. Yeah.
the pressure that's there, the
Mhm.
instant gratification
Yeah.
that's there, the thought processes of both female and male to find that perfect relationship at
Right.
such an early age, that it's I watch some of these teenagers who have dated since they were 12, and I'm like,
Mhm.
ugh, come on now. You literally have been with the same person since 12 or 13, even seventh grade. You've been with them since seventh grade, and your outside the box thinking is you've been with them since seventh grade. There's so much that goes in to
Yeah.
the dating aspect of it that I think a lot of these teenagers, one, are missing out on. But I think the street smarts has gone away, and I say that with very, very scary thought, because you can be all the book smart you want, but if you're not street smart, boy, you're susceptible to more levels than you'll ever know. And
Yeah.
It's so true.
so I go ahead, Joan.
Well, I just wanted to add something about this, you know, you made the comment of, looking for that special person and dating, and how much emphasis is put on that in our culture and in our media. Getting married. I think of all the Disney movies, the Disney princess movies, and Prince Charming and Living Happily Ever After. And also, there's religious aspects of that too that are encouraging girls to find a male partner to care and support them. And I'm not putting anybody down, but this need for girls, I'm speaking again mostly from the perspective of girls, because this is where a lot of it's happening, is that girls are looking for that special someone. Not that boys aren't, but it's a different situation, in that they're looking for that special someone. And I'm hearing more and more girls that are 13 and 14 years old, and this is that are dating a 19-year-old or a 21-year-old. Dating, that's not a date. That's not young love. That is a manipulator befriending, and it's called boyfriending, by the way. There's actually a name for it. Boyfriending, when an older adult or older teen is dating a young girl, and they're dating with very different ideas about what they want, because that 12 and 13-year-old girl is not street smart. What is a 19 or 21-year-old boy doing, or a girl for that matter, if it's a lesbian relationship, or a gay relationship? But
Sure.
when you've got that big difference in age, right, there's where that boyfriending or girlfriending shows up, and it's designed for manipulating and getting them involved in a sex trade, and sometimes sex trafficking, and then addicted, doing things that a 12-year-old doesn't even understand, and being coerced to do it, but doing it to please their partner, or this boyfriend or girlfriend.
I want to
And that's abusive.
I want to add something in there too, because I think we have talked about this in the past, but you literally opened up another avenue with the lesbian or the gay couple that's out there, that on all, and we have to talk about these things whether you like the conversation or not as a society. But
Correct.
the the aspect of coming out, it there is, I want to say it's easier today than it was, but I'm going to tell you what the difference is. When you first come out, it's not as easy as one thinks, no matter if you think it's okay or not, and you got all the support. And if someone out there in this world can use that against you, they 100% will. And that has to be the one scary aspect of those relationships that are different today. And it would be, I have enough friends that are on both sides of all these issues, and family members, and I legitimately think that as a society we've gotten a lot better at having the open dialogue, and really talking about it. I think the difference now is we can't bury our head in the sand and act like it's enough. We've got to, like, create these dialogues like we're having today in our own living rooms, and have these discussions with the kids that and their friends that are around you. The conversations I've had with my boys and their friends have been tenfold more than I ever thought about when I was a kid, let alone what I really intended on having the conversations about. So I think as a society, and Joan, I really want you to kind of talk about this, because you deal with it every day, but there is that aspect of those pressures within the family dynamics and friend dynamics that a real creeper in this world would love to get a hold of first.
Yeah, the real creeper is going to try and do anything, and
Sure.
we have to just be aware that those people are out there. And I just, because we brought this up, I want to make sure that anyone that is listening understands that CARE, Center for Abuse and Rape Emergencies, ACT, which is in Lee County, and SPARK, which is in Sarasota and whatever that one is, the other county next door, that DeSoto, sorry, that we are all of us are there to help anyone, a teenager, adult, that is in a gay or lesbian relationship.
Sure.
That we are there to have that conversation with them, to help them if they're experiencing any dating violence within those relationships, or someone is boyfriending or girlfriending them with a criminal or a ill intent, right? That we are there at CARE, ACT, SPARK. We're all there to have that conversation with them and to support them without any judgment. We don't care who you're dating or how it's happening. we are there to have that conversation and support you. So anyone in the LGBTQ plus community I want them to know that we are there for them. And we are there to have that conversation with them. And they can call us again anytime, 24/7. And for anything. I mean, really, that's what we're there for. And I bring this up because about the girls being the boyfriending, because on a number of calls that I have gone out to, because I do go to hospital response and I work with law enforcement, when a girl comes in because she's been sexually assaulted or she's experienced some sort of sexual assault or rape or physical abuse or even the texting abuse, cyber abuse, that there is this thing called boyfriending, and I'm going to say girlfriending, where that person's intention is to get them hooked up to have inappropriate relationships with them in order to use it in a way that's abusive. And when I talk to particularly girls, I'm speaking from the girls that I've spoken to, not just in my work here at CARE, but in the other work that I did when I did research studies on domestic violence. Oftentimes, these girls did think that they were getting involved with somebody, and it was the happily ever after. They really were looking for that special someone that they were going to marry and have children and, for the rest of their life. And I've asked them that, and that also goes with a lot of adult women as well that are dating or that are in relationships now. They're still thinking that they're looking for someone who is going to be there forever, or they're happily ever after. And that often interferes with them being really careful, as you say, street smart, right?
Right.
About these relationships, because they're clouded, and there is that, and that's a lot of cultural thing. It's hard to be a single in a couples based world. It's hard to be single. So a lot of women and men are always looking for a partner, because that's what we have been told is the way we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be a couple.
Well, we are, and I have to tell you, there is a comment that's out there, but it is directed at you. I've got a friend who went to Vegas, and he's out in Vegas, and he said send money because he's broke. So the comment, the one comment that just popped up was my friend Dave. But I, here's the funny thing: we just had the Super Bowl, and we just had the Super Bowl out in Vegas. And there is that connection with uh, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, and so it's kind of funny that he jumped in there, but the fact that we are like number what 6 in the nation with human trafficking. There are 3.
Number 3.
I want to be 6. I don't want to be 3.
I want to be 50.
I do too, but let's work our way backwards. But I just keep praying we're moving backwards, I guess. But I don't want to be in the top 10. I think it sucks. But when you look at the industries that are out there, you've got Vegas, it's Vegas, and you've got Florida, that's Florida. And we're all prone not to pay attention, and both of those locations, because they're transient. People are on vacation, they're doing things. I can draw these two things together, but there's teens out there that have it's the same month for them as it is here. And there's a listening audience anywhere with social media. So if you've got friends and loved ones that are in other states, if you've got granddaughters who may need to know that it's Teen Awareness Month and you want them to have another point of view, there's nothing wrong with sharing the video and getting this information in the right hands, because at the end of the day, this is educational. It's not here to beat you up, and it's really coming from a source at CARE that is here to provide services. And if we didn't have these issues, I wish, and I know that you wish you didn't have to have a job there like that, but we're glad you are there. And I'm sure that the people who have gone through the processes of rape and prevention or human trafficking, I know this because of the human trafficking event that we do. There are so many people who hear the message for the first time or even the second time, and they wake up in that room differently. And I say that because it is that change, and that's why we do these conversations. Go ahead, John.
Well, I want to make sure that we say to anyone that's hearing this that if you have experienced any kind of abuse, domestic violence, teen dating violence, and a lot of it's very similar, but with teen datings, there's that social status, which also affects adults. Their constant usage on the internet, I'm sorry, on their phones, where that constant, what are you doing, where it's abusive contact, constant contact, always trying to figure out where you are, what you're doing, who you're talking to, that's abuse. That's not love. Gee, it feels really good that somebody cares where I am all the time, but also they don't need to care that much. That isn't love. And helping kids and teens have that conversation about what makes it love and what makes it abuse. What means is yes, when you have one expectation versus coercion, I'm going to promise you something that really is not my intention. So intention, and that teen dating and teen dating violence and abuse has a lasting effect on both boys and girls. And we know that because when I was doing my research study on domestic violence, every single one of them had a history of teen dating abuse, abuse as a teen, and sexual relationship, or just an abusive relationship. And so that's why it's so important that we get teens talking about it. We find out that only 9% of the teens actually that have had an abusive relationship seek help. And usually it's not to their parents or their teachers. Often it's to a peer, and the peer can't tell them what to do.
They don't know either.
Because right, as Brandi says, they don't know either. They don't know what to do. And 80% of teens say that, to me, teen dating abuse is a huge issue, and it's something they deal with all the time. The problem is that 80% of the adults, when asked about teen dating abuse, they don't think it's an issue. So there's a huge disconnect with what teens are experiencing, and that sort of putting down or dismissing the abuse when a teen experiences abuse. Go ahead.
I'm going to say this too because there's a disconnect. I know for a fact that the drop and go parents out there, and I'm calling you out. I love the fact that we have students who want to be at the school. But I'm telling you, parents, that you drop and goes, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. I talk about this nonstop. I've been screaming about it because I have been the father who has been there for your drop and go kid. At least I was there for your drop and go kid, not somebody else. And what's really scary to me is 07 and 08 and before that, I was dealing with a lot of drop and go kids at the high school. And as the athletic booster president, they literally came to me. I fed them. They helped me. They worked for me. They did all these things. I'm going to tell you right now, if I was a bad guy, boy, it would be easy. It would be so damn easy to take advantage of you drop and go parents. And if you're drop and go parents and you're not paying attention, your kids are picking that practice up from you. and they're not paying attention either, and they're just looking for some attention. And I'm going to tell you, whether you think your kid is capable of a bad moment on a date, think again. uh, just seriously, if that wasn't the loud thud that y'all needed to hear, play it back a couple more times and send it over to the drop and go parents that you know. I'm telling you, it's still happening today, and people need to wake up. But I know we're running short on time. We got about 4 minutes, and that just angers me. By the way, I'm sorry, but
It's okay.
Brandi, go ahead.
It's okay. I think we talked about a lot of important things, but like you said, teens and kids pick up relationships from their parents. So if they're not seeing healthy relationships, which a lot of us don't know what healthy relationships are as adults, we just carry on what our parents did and what their parents did, and we just carry it on. And a lot of times it just goes down generation to generation. But they don't know what healthy relationships are. So that's why these conversations are important. We do another program called Girls Circle, which focuses on girls, obviously. We go into schools for ages 9 to 18 and just teach them about healthy relationships and what boundaries are and what is consent and all those healthy things. But I think another important part of it is, in this digital world, it's easy to just have everything you want, but we're really more alone than we've ever been, because it's online interactions. So yeah, you can have so many friends on social media, but in real life, you're alone. Nobody really knows who you are. So I think it's important that we teach these teens how to take care of themselves and to, focus on having friends and having a good support group and having somebody that they can talk to. And just as parents, being that support for them and just saying, hey, maybe I don't know what you're going through, but you can talk to me about anything. I have 2 young kids. So I'm not at that teenage, but just teaching teens that they're in control of themselves and they need to take care of themselves so that they can be aware of everything that's going on around them.
The messages that are out there right now with social media and different things like that. I'm going to go right back to the street smarts side of things. I grew up on the west side of Columbus, and we did not have, we were not the short side of Columbus, whether that be the bottoms or the east side. We literally still didn't have it perfect. We had to battle through it. We had to pay attention when we walked down the road. We had to pay attention to the cars so that you weren't stopped in front of and grabbed. You still had to watch all those things because we were transitioning as a neighborhood, and we are blessed here. We truly are blessed here. We've got police forces and sheriff departments here that, if you go to any of these events that CARE puts on, you'll understand the connection that these organizations have. And we're blessed to have organizations who care about our community enough to keep those relationships strong and vibrant and like cutting edge, like even drawing in from St. Petersburg and Pasco County and trying to coordinate efforts. If your kid is ever involved in anything of those sorts, you're going to wish that you understood what CARE does and how they can help. And if you're a male or female who's been battered, pick up the phone. Don't be scared. Pick up the phone and call, because at the end of the day, the only thing you're going to get is listening and help. And that's it. And I'm almost out of time, so I wanted to end it there. But Joan, do you have anything to add?
Call us, text us, reach out to us, talk to your friends, share this information. And if you would like to have I know Brandy's just starting out, but coming out to your school, we go to Boys and Girls Clubs. We do programs with different students and kids in schools. So reach out to us if you'd like someone to come and talk. We talk at the Southern Tech and Jersey College. I'll be at Nova Southeastern over in Lee County in April, speaking to classes there. So let us know if you want to come and talk to us, or have us come and talk to your students. Thank you.
Joan and Brandi, I really appreciate you being part of the show. I got a customer coming over because I've got to do some work on top of this, but I want to thank everybody for listening in, and be safe getting home. We'll talk to you soon. This is John Rawlings with Real Talk Radio, 97.5 FM and CARE in Port Charlotte, saying thanks and have a good night. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.